Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send us and, well, we dive deep. We pull out the key knowledge you're looking for.
Making complex stuff a bit more digestible.
Exactly. And today, we're heading way back, Late Cretaceous period.
Yep.
We've got a scientific overview here, shared by one of you, about a dinosaur called Acristavus.
Acristavus, an interesting one.
Yeah, seems like it. You wanted the essentials, quick but thorough. So, our mission today, figure out what makes Acristavus so significant in paleontology.
Okay, let's jump in. Acristavus. The name itself is a clue.
Non-crested grandfather.
That's the one. It's a mix of Latin and Greek, points right at its main feature, no crest, and its early position in the hadrosaur family.
Okay.
Lived in the late Cretaceous. And the fossils. They've turned up in two places in the U.S. West.
Right, I saw that. Montana and Utah.
Correct. The Two Medicine Formation in Montana and the Wawip Formation down in Utah. The species is Acristavus gaglarsoni, named back in 2011.
Non-crested grandfather. Okay, that name really makes you think. Because usually, duck-billed dinosaurs, you picture those crazy head crests.
You do, like Parasaurolophus, Corthosaurus.
Well, what's the big deal about Acristavus not having one? Is that unusual?
It is. And that's where it gets really interesting, paleontologically speaking. Acristavus, and really only Edmontosaurus among the known hadrosaurids, lacked any major skull bling.
Skull bling, I like that.
Well, this absence, it's really important evidence. It helps us understand how hadrosaurs evolved.
How so?
Think of Acristavus as maybe showing us the basic model, the starting point for duckbills, before different groups went off and developed all that headgear.
Okay, so the common ancestor was maybe plain-headed?
That's the idea it supports, yeah.
Yeah.
That the ancestor of all hadrosaurs was likely unadorned, and then crests evolved later, and importantly, independently in the two main branches.
Which are?
The Saurolophinae, that's the group Acristavus is in, and the Lambeosauridae, those are the ones famous for the really diverse, often hollow crests.
Wow, okay. That really shifts the picture of their evolution. So let's place Acristavus. Where does it sit in the grand dinosaur family tree?
Right. Big picture first. Domain Eukaryota, Kingdom Animalia, Phylum Chordata, the basics. Then clade Dinosauria.
Of course.
Within dinosaurs, it's an ornithischian, the bird-hipped ones. Then clade Ornithopoda, getting more specific. Family Hadrosauridae, the duckbills.
Okay.
Subfamily Saurolophinae. And within that, tribe Brachylephosaurinae.
Brachylephosaurinae. And who are its closest relatives in there?
That would be Brachylephosaurus and Maiasaura.
And I think the source mentioned our understanding of those close relationships has changed a bit over time.
It has, yeah. Science is always refining things. When Acristavus was first described, 2011, the thinking was it was Maiasaura's closest relative, like a sister taxon.
Okay.
But then further analysis came out in 2013, and this suggested, actually, Maiasaura is probably closer to Brachylephosaurus than it is to Acristavus.
So Acristavus is sort of an earlier branch.
Exactly. The cladogram, the family tree diagram in the source, based on that 2013 work, puts Acristavus in a more basal position within that Brachylephosaurinae tribe.
Basal, meaning branched off earlier.
Precisely. It's split off from the line leading to Maiasaura and Brachylephosaurus a bit earlier in their evolutionary history. It's a great example of how new finds and analyses redraw the picture.
Definitely. Okay, so we've got the name, time, place, family connections. What about the actual fossils? What bones have paleontologists found?
Good question. We have two main specimens. The holotype, that's the key one used to define the species, is MOR 1155.
MOR, Museum of the Rockies.
Correct. Found in Montana's Two Medicine Formation way back in 1999.
And what did they find?
Quite a lot, actually. An almost complete skull, which is fantastic, plus associated postcrania bits from behind the skull.
Like vertebrae. Limbs?
Yep, cervical, dorsal, caudal vertebrae, ribs, parts of the arms like the humerus and ulna, sternal plate, pubis, femur, tibia, foot bones. Quite a bit.
Wow. And the rock it was in?
Well-indurated sandstone, dated to about 79 million years ago. So Campanian stage, Late Cretaceous.
An almost complete skull.
Yeah.
That must provide incredible detail.
Oh, absolutely. Shape, bone connections, maybe even sensory details. It's gold for paleontologists.
And there was a second specimen, too. From Utah.
Yes, UMNHVP 16607 from the Wawip Formation in Utah. Found a year later in 2000.
Natural History Museum of Utah, presumably.
That's right. This one wasn't as complete, but still very valuable. A partial skull, but articulated the bones were still joined up.
What parts?
Included the lacrimals near the eye socket, a complete brain case, which is really informative, and a neck vertebra.
And this one was older.
Slightly older, yes. The rock layer there is estimated around 80.69 million years ago, give or take a bit.
Okay, so we have these bones. How do scientists look at them and say, yes, this is definitely a Acristavus, something new? What are the telltale signs?
Right, that's the diagnosis, and like a unique checklist of features for that specific species.
Like its fingerprint.
Exactly, a specific combination of traits. Sometimes these include autapomorphies features that are truly unique, found only in that species.
So what are they for Acristavus? What made them say, this is different?
Okay, according to the original 2011 description, there are a few key things. One is this enlarged bit on the postorbital bone around the eye, and the basiooccipital at the back of the skull. It jets out backwards and upwards quite a bit, more than in similar hadrosaurs, especially relative to the foramen magnum, that big hole where the spinal cord goes.
Okay, that's specific.
It is. Another one is the suture, the join between the front and nasal bones on the snout. It's described as deep and sort of laterally squared off. There's also a swelling noted on the suture where the prefrontal and frontal bones meet on the skull roof. And finally, a deep depression on the side of the postorbital's jugal process, another part of that bone around the eye.
Those are incredibly fine details. It really shows you the level of anatomical comparison involved.
Absolutely. It's meticulous work.
So let's zoom out again. We know when and where Acristavus lived. What was its world like? The environment.
Okay, the Wawip Formation, where the Utah specimen came from, gives us a good picture. It dates between roughly 81 and 76 million years ago.
And geographically.
This was during the Late Cretaceous when the Western Interior Seaway, that huge inland sea, was pretty much at its peak. It split North America. Acristavus lived on the western landmass, Laramidia, but in a southern part that was basically isolated by the seaway.
Like a giant island.
Sort of, yeah. The environment itself seems to have been characterized by lakes, big floodplains, rivers flowing east towards the seaway.
And the climate.
Evidence points towards a wet seasonal climate and lots of sediment being deposited quickly, which is good for fossilization. This area is now part of the Grand Staircase region in Utah. Beautiful, rugged country.
So who else was living in this wet, dynamic world with Acristavus? Who were its neighbors?
It was a busy place. We know of other dinosaurs for sure. There was Adelphus, another hadrosaur, but a lambeosaurian, one of the crested ones.
So different branch of the family.
Exactly. Also, Diabloceratops, a horned dinosaur, a ceratopsian. Plus, fossils tell us there were unnamed ankylosaurs, the armored guys, and pachycephalosaurs, the boneheads.
Any predators?
Oh, yes. The likely top predator there was Lithrinax argestes, a big tyrannosaur theropod.
Lithrinax. Gore King. Sounds charming.
Isn't it? Definitely a formidable neighbor.
But it wasn't just dinosaurs roaming around, right? What else shared that ecosystem?
Not at all. The Wawip fossils show a really diverse community. Lots of freshwater fish, things like bowfins. Also rays and sharks, interestingly enough.
In freshwater.
Well, near the coast, likely brackish environments too. Turtles were common, like compsomys, crocodilians, even lungfish.
And mammals?
Yep, mammals were around, generally smaller back then. Things like multituberculates, cladotherians, marsupials, and some early placental insectivores. More primitive types than you find in later Cretaceous formations like the Kyparoids.
And the source mentioned trace fossils adding to the picture. Footprints, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Trace fossils are great. They show behavior. We see tracks from crocodilomorphs, ornithischian dinosaurs, and theropods in the Wawip.
Anything really unusual?
There was one particularly cool find reported in 2010. Fossilized mammal burrows, like dens, found really close to digging marks that were almost certainly made by a small predatory dinosaur, a Maniraptoran.
You mean?
It looks like strong evidence of active predation, the dinosaur digging out the mammals, a snapshot of interaction.
Wow. That's incredible detail.
Isn't it? And beyond vertebrates, there's evidence of invertebrates, too. Insect burrows in petrified wood, various mollusks, big crabs, snails, ostracods. It was a whole complex world.
It really paints a vivid picture. So, bringing our deep dive on Acristavus towards a close, what are the main things we should take away? Why is this non-crested grandfather so important?
Well, I think the core thing is that lack of skull ornamentation. It's Acristavus' defining feature, and because it's relatively basal, it really helps us piece together hadrosaur evolution.
Showing that crests weren't the starting point.
Exactly. It strongly supports the idea that the common ancestor was plain-headed and crests evolved later multiple times in different lineages like the Saurolophinae and Lambeosaurinae. Finding Acristavus helps sequence those evolutionary steps.
And its place in the family tree?
Its position within the Brachylophosaurinae helps clarify those relationships too, between Maiasaura brachylophosaurus and itself. And, of course, finding it within that rich Wawweep ecosystem.
Right, it gives context.
It gives us a window into that specific time and place, showing this particular dinosaur as part of a really diverse and dynamic late Cretaceous world.
It really does. You know, thinking about that whole vibrant ecosystem in the Wawweep Formation, the fish, the crocs, the mammals, Lithrinax, Diblossotops, and our non-crested Acristavus, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other surprising interactions, maybe like that predator-prey trace fossil, are still buried waiting for us to find them? What other connections are hidden in those rocks?
That's the exciting part. There's always more to discover.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us in this deep dive.